Hello and welcome back to Tip the Footy, the site that is more than just tips. If you're new, welcome. If you're a returning visitor, then great to see you back again. So loads of things to get through, I guess. We had the Champions League draw. We've just had the Europa League draw, and obviously the weekend preview to come as well. So what we'll do is we'll start with a quick rundown of the weekend preview. Some tasty games across England. There'll be a blog tomorrow, obviously with score predictions, things like that. Today's is already out for the games that are being played across this evening. So the weekend starts in the Premier League sense with Southampton Man United. Now, a lot of people are probably going to be wary of backing Manchester United here because the defeat at home to Crystal Palace wasn't good enough in terms of result. In terms of performance, apparently they didn't do too badly, but even so, Manchester United are a very strange team at the minute. Southampton are looking like a better side under Ralph Hasenhüttl, so that's one that could go either way. You've got Chelsea, Sheffield United, where I believe that Chelsea should be far too strong at Stamford Bridge for Sheffield United. I think they'll give it a good go, but I can't see anything more than a Chelsea win. Crystal Palace play Aston Villa. Again, that could be a real opportunity for Crystal Palace to get some home points on board. Although Aston Villa will be buoyed by beating Everton last weekend. We've got Leicester Bournemouth. Again, that one looks like a game for goals. Man City played Brighton. You can't see anything really there other than a Manchester City win. They're just a relentless side. Newcastle Watford again has got the potential to have some goals in it. West Ham Norwich, another one which could be an absolute goal fest. Timo Pukki obviously leading the way in the scoring charts. Then you've got Haller, who's got off the mark now as well. So there's a lot of goal potential in that one. And then Burnley Liverpool. So Liverpool are looking to be 100% record going into the international break. Now, Burnley away is not the game you want if you want to go into an international break with a 100% record. Burnley have already proved this season that they are a decent side. They got a really good point at Wolves, arguably deserved 3. So Liverpool have made a really good start. Obviously didn't make a lot of signings, so I think we've kept the core of the squad, and we're looking to hopefully challenge Manchester City all the way, if not one better this time round. It's going to be a tricky tie at Turf Moor. It always is, but that's the evening game. And then we move into the Sunday fixtures. You've got Everton Wolves. Again, it'll all depend on how Wolves deal with the Thursday Sunday. Everton played midweek as well this time round and looked okay. Sometimes a bit shaky, but they got the job done against Lincoln. Definitely another one to look at in terms of goals, but obviously I'll be going through all the stats and putting up all my predictions for that over on the blog. Arsenal Spurs. I think if this had been at Spurs, then it may have been a different story, but I can't really see past at the minute an Arsenal win. I think Arsenal are in the ascendancy. I think there's still some uncertainty with Christian Eriksen and all that kind of stuff. I'm not convinced that Tottenham go into this one in the right frame of mind. Having said that, it is a derby, and most of the time anything can happen in a derby. I saw a lot of debate as well about who's got the best derby in Britain. So you've got the Celtic Rangers, you've got Liverpool Everton and Newcastle Sunderland, all things like that, and it's really hard to rank them, I think, because what they mean to the people who are involved in them, it's a much different thing. So it is very difficult to rank them. I've never experienced a North London derby. I have experienced Merseyside derbies. For me, a Merseyside derby will always mean more, but then I'm a Liverpool fan and I've got family who are Blues and Reds, so there's always a lot that can go on round the lead up to a derby and subsequently the aftermath. So yeah, when it comes to ranking derbies, I'm not sure how to even begin doing that. Talking of derbies though, also on Sunday is Rangers Celtic. So it's an opportunity for Steven Gerrard to get a Ibrox win, potentially show that they're going to be there pushing Celtic all the way this season. So that's going to be an interesting game. There's bound to be some tackles flying in as well, so it'll be definitely one to watch. So yeah, that's just a brief overview of the fixtures that we've got to look forward to this weekend. But let's talk about the Champions League draw now. So Obviously, with the Champions League draw, they're quite long, drawn out affairs, a lot of pageantry and a lot of weird things that have to go on. But one of the strangest things was obviously Eric Cantona's speech. Now, it's hard to work out whether he's either the world's greatest ever philosopher or trolling the entire world. Either way, fair play to him. He was a fantastic footballer, and some of the statements he's made over the years, the seagulls and the trawlers when he karate kicked the Crystal Palace fan, and a few other weird things along the way. But no, that was an interesting one. I really enjoyed the sit down between Messi, Ronaldo, and Virgil van Dijk. I just think we're in a period of time where we've been able to enjoy Messi and Ronaldo for so long at the real peak of their powers, and it is absolutely fantastic to see. It was great to see that there was a lot of respect between the two of them. I haven't seen a translated version of what Messi was saying and things like that, but from Ronaldo's point of view, he seemed to come across like a decent guy, and they do seem to get on. I think they do. I think when they were in the same league, they do drive each other on. I think now they do it as well in the European scene. And then obviously Virgil van Dijk, absolutely massive congratulations to him. I think it was well deserved. I think he did deserve it this season. European Player of the Year, and then you've got well done to Alisson Becker, Goalkeeper of the Year, Van Dijk again, Defender of the Year, Frankie de Jong for Midfielder of the Year, and obviously Messi for Striker of the Year. So and Lucy Bronze as well for Female Player of the Year. That's congratulations to her. So if we look at the actual draws, which we'll do now. So I made predictions on the on Twitter of how the groups would look. Got them completely wrong. Not one was in the right order. So we look at Group A. That's an absolute belting group by the looks of things. You've got PSG and Real Madrid in there, so the two heavyweights going to be battling that out. That's going to be really interesting to see how that pans out. Galatasaray and Club Brugge are probably going to be fighting for trying to get into the Europa League, so we'll be looking to probably take points off each other, because I don't see many points coming off PSG and Real Madrid, apart from maybe the games between them. Obviously, a draw, or maybe a win either way. So maybe PSG win at home and Real Madrid win at their home. It's a really interesting group. There's going to be some exciting fixtures coming in that one. And then you've obviously got the Neymar situation as well. PSG are currently without Cavani and Mbappe as well. Whether they'll be back in time, I don't know the actual length of their injuries, but there is potential there for maybe someone to spring a surprise in one of the earlier games. But we'll have to wait and see how that pans out. Group B now, Spurs are in this group with Bayern Munich, Olympiacos, and Red Star Belgrade. Red Star Belgrade is a very difficult place to go. As Liverpool found out last season, we obviously got beat there 2-0. It's not just a difficult place to go for the players, though. It's also a difficult place to go for the fans. It's a very intimidating place. It's very loud, boisterous, and how the fans are treated are a little bit sort of back in time as to what we're used to these days in the more western side of Europe. However, Tottenham can go there and win. Obviously they can, but I think Tottenham are going to have a bit of a struggle in this group. Olympiacos is never easy to go to either, but I think that Spurs should pick up a win at home. Bayern Munich will probably be the games that really decide. If they can take any kind of points off Bayern Munich, that'll be really good for them. They should have enough quality to finish second, but and it's a big but that there is a chance that Spurs could find themselves in the Europa League after this group stage, which would be a shame for them, having got to the final last year. I think that this is probably the year they need to try and kick on, maybe go one better. I don't believe they're strong enough to do it though, but we'll see. I think they'll get through the group, but whether they'll compete further rounds, I'm not so sure. Group C, Man City, obviously. And I'm not going to subscribe to this whole they've paid you away for all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of banter flying about that. It may well be true. I just don't think it is. They do seem to get. The last couple of seasons anyway. Let go further back, and they've had some difficult groups. But the last two have certainly been reasonably easy. So they've got Shakhtar, Dinamo, and Atalanta. The only thing I'd say in Man City's defence here is that's a lot of travelling. But they should come through that group reasonably unscathed and top it. Group D, another really interesting group. So you've got Juventus, Atletico Madrid, Bayer Leverkusen and Lokomotiv Moscow. Now, you would expect Lokomotiv Moscow to be the whipping boys of that group. So it will depend on results between the other teams who will get through. I like Bayer Leverkusen. Moscow's a difficult place to go as well, don't forget. But I like Bayer Leverkusen. I don't see them progressing, though. I think that it's going to be Juventus and Atletico Madrid going through there. But also it pits João Felix against Ronaldo. So it's the young Portuguese pretender to the King Ronaldo's throne. It's going to be that's going to be really interesting. But I'd say Juventus and Atletico Madrid to go through, Bayer Leverkusen to drop into the Europa League. Group E, which is Liverpool's group. So we've got Napoli again, Salzburg and Genk. Now, I'm really happy with that group. There's not massive travelling time. Obviously, the game against Salzburg lets Mane and Naby Keita go and see some old friends and, you know, go back to a former club. Napoli away last year, we were outplayed last year against Napoli. We didn't look good at all. We were unlucky not to sort of sneak away with a point, but it would have been a stolen point. It wouldn't have been so much a deserved one, but obviously we had to rely then on beating them at home. I'm hoping it doesn't come down to that again. I just think that Liverpool should be too strong in this group and should go through as group winners. But a lot of that will depend on how we do against Napoli, I think. And I think Genk is a reasonable side, but we should be taking care of business with those home and away. Then you've got Group F. So Barca, this is possibly the group of death. Barca, Dortmund, Inter, and Slavia Prague. So Inter Milan are now a resurgent force. They've got back into the Champions League back to back now. They've got. I know that they're probably going to lose Icardi, or it's likely that he won't be involved even if he does remain there. But they've now got the added attacking power of Lukaku, who, despite what people say, you know, he does score goals. Now, a lot will probably depend on how Alexis Sanchez adapts to life playing for Inter Milan. So playing for Inter Milan, he hasn't had the best of time at Manchester United, as we know. He was great for Arsenal most of the time, and obviously for Barcelona before that. He's a very good player, but will he ever get back to them heights again? We'll see. They've obviously got Antonio Conte in as manager now as well, so anything can happen there. So Inter are probably a strong candidate to get out of that group. Barcelona obviously strong favourites to progress top, and then Dortmund, who you know, they've got some great young players themselves. They play a good style of football. They're attacking, which will probably be like seeing two different styles when they play Inter Milan. It'd be two interesting contrasting styles. So for me, I'd probably edge before for Barca and Inter to go through, but obviously that will probably change as things progress. Again, I'll expect Slavia Prague to be the whipping boys in that group. So Group G, probably the most trickiest one really to kind of call, because it's four teams all of relatively reasonable levels between each other. There's no real standout there. So you've got Zenit, Benfica, Lyon and Leipzig. Now, a few years back, you'd probably say Benfica and Lyon will coast it. But now Leipzig play really good football. You've got Zenit that is a difficult place to go to. There's a lot of options in that group, and it's hard to call that one definitely from the start. So I'm not going to. And then in Group H, you've got Chelsea, Ajax, Valencia and Lille. Now this is probably the difficult group of all the English teams. This is probably the most difficult in the Champions League. So Ajax were obviously last season's semi-finalists. They had to go through the qualifying rounds to qualify this year. They've lost two or three sort of key players, definitely De Ligt and De Jong. Still fancy Ajax to progress from that group. I think they're going to be strong enough. Then Valencia, who are now sort of emerging again as a bit of a force, and then Lille, who have lost Pepe, but have started the season reasonably well in France. So it's going to be an interesting one. I think if Chelsea do go through, I think it'll be as group runners-up. But again, it'll be a very interesting group to watch for the neutral. So that's the Champions League draw. So, you know, in the comments below as well, getting your thoughts. Who do you think is the group of death? Name the club that you support, and if you're happy or not with your group. Manchester City fans, I suppose you can just put a thumbs up because you already know you're happy with your group. But we'll see how things go. And if Liverpool fans, I'm happy as well. To be fair, so you know, there's no animosity. You're fine. You got a decent group. I think we did too. So now briefly, and we'll keep this reasonably brief because I think the Champions League is probably the more key focus on for a lot of fans. I know that the Europa League was still an interesting draw though, still some interesting games in there. So we'll have a little talk about that. We won't go through every group in as much detail. We'll just sort of scan through them apart from the groups that involve British sides. So Sevilla look like they've got a reasonably easy group. Bit of travel in those. You've got Apoel, Nicosia, Karabag, and Dudelange. Sevilla should walk that group. Group B: Dynamo Kiev, Copenhagen, Malmo, and Lugano. It's a couple of teams there. I mean, Malmo might surprise a few. I would expect Kiev and Copenhagen to probably go through there. Bâle, Krasnodar, Getafe, Trabzonspor. That's quite an interesting group. I would expect Getafe and Bâle to qualify in that group. I mean, Krasnodar are pretty dangerous as well, though. Trabzonspor were pretty poor the other night. So in Group D, you've got Sporting Lisbon, PSV Eindhoven, Rosenborg, and Lask. Well, PSV Eindhoven and Sporting Lisbon will be the first two that jumps out at you, but Rosenborg are no mugs. Group E, now this is Celtic's group, and it's a difficult one to be fair. So they've got Lazio, obviously Celtic, Rennes, and Cluj. Well, obviously they've only just played Cluj recently and got knocked out of the Champions League by Cluj, so there's going to be a bit of needle in that game, I think, either way. So I'd like to see Celtic progress. I think they're a nice side, but I think Lazio are going to take the top spot in that group, and then maybe Celtic can try and sneak in second. So Group F, which is Arsenal's group, is so you've got Arsenal, Eintracht Frankfurt, Standard Liège, and Vitoria. So travelling wise, it looks like a reasonable group for them. Eintracht Frankfurt look like the clear danger in that one, but I would expect Arsenal to progress, probably as group winners to be fair. Group G, you've got Porto, Young Boys, Feyenoord, and Rangers. Now, that's a tough one for Rangers. I mean, it's just a really difficult one. I mean, all of those teams are very good. Porto, obviously, ex-champions of Europe as well. It's Feyenoord, they're a decent Dutch side. It's going to be a tricky one. I mean, even Young Boys, they're decent in Sweden. It's going to be a tricky one. I think Rangers will need a bit of luck on their side to get through that. I mean, Steven Gerrard's done a brilliant job so far in Europe with Rangers, but that looks like a very difficult group for me. And in Group H, you've got CSKA, Moscow, Ludogorets, Espanyol, and Ferencváros. Now, that should be Espanyol and CSK Moscow, although Ludogorets could pose a danger in that one because they are scoring a lot of goals lately, I've noticed. So then you've got Group I, which is Wolfsburg, Ghent, St Etienne, and Alexandria. I don't know a lot about Alexandria. I need to have a little bit more research into them. But you'd expect St Etienne and Wolfsburg, I would imagine, to get through. I mean, Ghent aren't bad either, though, to be fair. So we'll see how that pans out. Group J is Roma, Borussia Mönchengladbach, Istanbul Başakşehir, and Wolfsberger AC. Wolfsberger AC, they're the Austrian side. This is their first appearance in the Europa League, so I would expect those to be the whipping boys based on what we know about Roma and Borussia Mönchengladbach. Although Istanbul is not an easy place to go, and they're a reasonably good side to be fair. Group K sees Besiktas, Braga, Slovan Bratislava, and Wolves. So if you're Wolves, you're playing everyone beginning with B. They should be too strong, I think, Wolves there to get. I think they should get through. There's going to be some tight games. Obviously, Besiktas away will be difficult. Braga away will be difficult. I would expect them to get 6 points from Slovan Bratislava's games. So I would expect Wolves to go through. I think it all depends on results with the other sides to see if it be group winners or second. So the final group, Group L, which involves Manchester United, FC Astana, Partizan Belgrade, and AZ Alkmaar. Now, Alkmaar's not bad to travel to. Alkmaar are not a bad side. They got a bit lucky against Antwerp though. Antwerp went down to like 9 men. So Antwerp took the lead with 10 men. So I don't think Alkmaar are as good as what they were, a couple of seasons ago. However, Man United, I think it's going to depend on what they do in this tournament in terms of fixture, in terms of tactics and players. Which players are they going to use? Are they going to go for the kids in this one and say, look, you go and just have a bit of European experience, And I think that would probably make the atmospheres better at Old Trafford because I think they want to see a lot of these youth players coming through. Maybe sacrifice that and maybe try and have an assault on the Premier League in terms of top four. Maybe they'll do that. I don't know. Until we see what Ollie's thinking, there's no guarantee that they're going to make it out of that group. Based not only on that, because you've got to think of the travel. It's probably one of the furthest for the English clubs. I think it probably is the furthest club that all English clubs have got to travel to. I would imagine that having to play that far away, and then if you've got an away game when you come back from Europe as well, and it's Thursday, Sunday, it will have a massive impact on Premier League form. Will they want to just play the kids, try and get a bit of experience, and then hope that one or two of them look like they're just, at the peak, and then drop them into the Premier League sides? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what sort of teams he fields and how the first couple of results go. I think if things don't go too well early on, they may just decide to sort of maybe step away from that one. I don't think it's massively important to Manchester United. I think they'd rather be back in the Champions League, and I think that by overexerting themselves too much in this could have a real bad impact on their league, because their squad isn't as strong as it needed to be. I think obviously a lot of Man United fans agree that the summer business wasn't good enough, by your standards for what you wanted. So that's about it. Better wrap it up because it's gone on a little bit longer than I thought it would. But it's nice to get a bit excited about the European football return and stuff like that. And obviously we've got the Premier League to look forward to this weekend. International breaks coming up, so obviously that's never the best, is it? I mean, it's something to watch, but it's never something to get the blood pumping until you get to like a proper tournament like World Cup, European Championships, that kind of stuff. But said that, we'll I always watch it anyway because I've got no choice. It's just what I do. But we'll wrap it up there. Any thoughts on the Europa League draw? Man United fans, Arsenal, any fans of any club, get in the comments below. Let us know how you felt about your draw and what you think you're going to do, how far you think you're going to get. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, just drop a like, comment and subscribe. And yeah, it's been great seeing you again. Take care. I'm Dante. Ta-da.